Welcome, Waters. I guess I should refer to you as Waters. Thanks for everybody who's been waiting for us. This is going to be a surprising, maybe for some of you, live stream, a topic that we haven't spoken about on this channel. We're going to be talking about crypto with Waters above, the one and only. And I'm not exaggerating when I say the one and only, because I've been following the crypto sphere for more than 4 years now. And I know there's nobody out there who combines all of these different arts into his own art. So I'm welcoming Waters. Hi.
Hi, I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely my pleasure. Um, how do you like to be referred to, Waters or your first name?
Yeah, Waters is fine. Yeah, that's easy. It's easier for people to find me. Sometimes when people call me by my first name, then they try searching for that, and it just never shows up. So yeah, Waters is fine.
Perfect. Waters, what I know you're a musician, but what brought you first of all on the path of crypto and of exploring the movements of the markets and combining them with astrology, numerology? We've had quite a
hmm
lot of people talk about astrology and numerology, so the audience is well acquainted with these subjects. But what brought you there?
So it was all kind of by mistake, but I think one of the things that kind of led me to this stuff was learning about the Federal Reserve System and learning how money's created and learning about fiat money in general and all of the policy that was being implemented on a global scale. So it wasn't just stuff with the United States, it was pretty much a globalist regime to push us into this sort of system back at the end of World War II. And just all of this stuff kind of blew my mind, that this information is out there and everyone could go research it on their own, yet we're not taught it in school and we're not even having daily conversations about it. And typically, when people have conversations about something close to this, it's usually them blaming politicians when politicians have no say in what the Federal Reserve does, as the Federal Reserve is a private entity that could do whatever they want. That's why it's funny. Recently, you might have seen this clip of Jerome Powell, who is the Federal Reserve Chairman. He's being asked moments after the election. It was literally, I think, the day after the election of Donald Trump winning. And he gets asked, "Are you going to resign or are you worried about your job?" And he basically says no, because he doesn't need to be worried about his job because the United States president can't take that job away from him.
Mm.
So knowing this so long ago, and then kind of landing into the quote unquote solution, which could very well be things like Bitcoin. And that was kind of the starting point of it all. And I had a couple e-commerce businesses that I was running, and these e-commerce businesses were fun and all, but I noticed I wasn't so passionate about them. And I'm an artist, I'm a musician, as you brought up, and I need to do something that I'm passionate about. And if I do something that I'm passionate about, I could do it for 12, 13, 14, 15 hours a day without any work, without any problems. And that's one of like my superpowers is whatever I get invested in emotionally and uh, in that level, I can excel at it pretty quickly. But I always check in with my higher self to be like, is this the thing that I should be doing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was able to learn how to create businesses and how to make money. But I think it's not just about making money, it's about being fulfilled. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
there was something about this whole thing and why I call it a mistake because I realized early on that maybe doing music as a job, as a career, is not the most harmonious thing to be doing, even though it could be very fulfilling for some people, but just not my energy. The energy that I have is quite different. So it just kind of is this perfect, imperfect chaos that I allowed. And these e-commerce businesses fell apart because of the things that were happening during C-19.
Mhm.
So there was a lot of issues with that, with shipping. And I think there'll continue to be issues like this. And
No,
we
yeah,
just
I've
watched it
spoken to quite
happening.
a few people that had drop shipping businesses and they failed because of the China supply chain.
Exactly, yeah. And we're seeing kind of some chaos right now in Canada. And I think we'll continue to see this sort of stuff. And it's their agenda to push drone technology. But that's another, we'll talk about that later maybe. But anyways, so yeah, just I had all this capital that I wanted to utilize, and I didn't really trust the traditional system, and I also didn't really trust this particular business model of drop shipping. I felt if I'm going to make a product, I want to be able to create it myself in-house. I would like to ship it myself in-house. And it's just one of those many quote unquote get rich quick schemes. And most people fail at it. Some people are successful at it. And again, it wasn't something I was passionate about. Once I really checked in with myself and asked, like, is this the way I want to earn money? So that was kind of the leap into the charts. I started learning technical analysis, and as many do, maybe you hear about Forex or you hear about something kind of related. But I just went with the crypto side of things because I saw the opportunity. The Federal Reserve straight up came out on television and said what they were going to do with money. They said we're going to print it into oblivion. So I said, okay, well, the market's going to go up. This is the easiest time to ever make money. And it was. And I think a lot of people resonated with the way that I was sharing the information. I don't know if you know this, but I had private clients for a while before I created the YouTube channel
Mhm.
because I really am one of those people that I believe in being honorable, and I believe you shouldn't just come out and act like you're a professional or you're a specialist unless you actually are. So I get this whole like fake it till you make it bullshit, but like that wasn't my vibe. So I wanted to work with people directly. I wanted to get results directly. So I became a professional trader. I was trading for myself. I was able to earn an income doing this. And then that was kind of the launch pad for Waters Above because my clients were like, you're really good at this. You know, you should try this on YouTube or you should try this publicly more. And I was just like, I don't know. But I guess kind of after a moment, I said, okay, let's just give it a shot. And then I released a couple videos with gematria, like decoding the market with gematria, and people were like, I've never seen this before. So yeah, that's kind of like the start.
Okay, and so when you were coaching your private clients, did you use gematria and astrology and numerology at this time, or did you start using it only after starting your channel?
So I didn't use it with my private clients because none of them knew what the hell I was talking about. They literally had no idea what I was saying. And you know what's funny? I remember back at that time when I was trying to help a lot of those people, they didn't believe in me, that much. They didn't really believe in me that much. And I can't blame them. Sometimes it's tough to believe in people until you see results. And then when those people came back to me later on, and I'm not trying to make this into I told you so moment, but it answers your question. When they came back to me later on, they said, "How are you able to do this? Like, how are you able to figure this out?" And I said, "Well, it was all the stuff that I tried telling you that you thought was make believe, like gematria, numerology, and astrology. And I still deal with this to this day, but I don't have to worry about it today, right? Because we have the results here. The channel has enough videos that speaks for itself of um, ideas and concepts of what the market will do next, and then it does. And I'm not even trying to make it about me. I just want it to be a system that the whole world could use.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you something about the astrological and the numerological part, because you have the sidereal astrology, the Western astrology, and then on the numerological part, there's the Gregorian calendar, other calendars that you're using. How do you all
hmm
combine all of this to make predictions when they're quite different systems? Do they overlap, or what is your system
Yeah, I
to
think
select?
I think numerology, sans life path, and also gematria is something that could link together the discrepancies that we might see between the Vedic astrology, sidereal, and also with tropical. Also, with people who might do something like human design or people that are quote unquote numerologists, like people who only use numerology. If you've watched any of my live streams, I've had my go at these people because again, like they're basing it on a false calendar, right? So your question is, how do I utilize all these systems? Well, I narrow it down with gematria and with numerology, but I'm not the biggest proponent of life path. And when people ask me directly, like, "What's your life path number?" or whatever, I say I don't associate with that because that's not my system. The same way I don't associate with the social security number. It's
Mhm.
bullshit. It's a slave number. Like none of us should associate with a tax identification code because that's not you. I mean, for real, like you're not even your body. You're just borrowing that momentarily. So everything that gets tacked onto the identity, I've always had, I don't want to say an issue with, but I just don't resonate with.
Well, recently I've watched one video. I think it was from last week from Archaics. I don't know if you're aware of Jason Brashears, and
Yeah,
he
he's chatted with me a couple times.
yeah, I find his theories also fantastic. And he was talking. They're not theories, basically the historical findings that he's sharing.
Sure.
He shared the origins of the astrological maps. And he basically said the original astrology, there was nothing like tropical, sidereal, this is all made up. Even the precession of the equinoxes is made up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious in the sky, but as a concept, it is void because previously there were no star signs like Leo, Aries, Capricorn, whatever. There were no star signs. It is only the constellations and the four cornerstones, so the four fixed stars.
Yeah.
So this got me thinking to something that I previously contemplated upon. It is that actually only the aspects among planets they matter more than the signs or the houses even. It's more the aspects. And you pointed out in your, because I'm a member of your Patreon
Oh, I
circle,
appreciate that. I
and
appreciate that.
I've actually bought your first course 4 years ago, the first
Oh my God.
course that you had.
Wow, that's amazing. I really appreciate your support.
My pleasure. You're so interesting to me. That's why I'm following you, and I'm encouraging everybody else to check you out. And so in the latest Red Pill podcast, or maybe it was another interview, I can't recall exactly, you were
Yeah.
talking about the pi and the phi numbers, which are fractions, which basically equate, in my understanding, very much to the aspects that the planets make. So what do you think of this theory that we're talking about aspects of planets which are seen in these ratios that you're talking about, the pi, the phi?
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a great question. And like to return back to where you started, I think we do need a very healthy reminder that everything is of the mind of man. So when we call it Mercury or Jupiter or Pluto, like this was named by humans. This is the human mind at work. And when we think of what the human can perceive, it's such a tiny bandwidth of perception. Like, who allows us to be the truth? Nothing but the truth. Who have you ever checked in with the dolphins on what they think about astrology? And some people laugh at that, they think that's silly. But like, we all have to understand, like, what made this world go through wars and do all this horrible stuff that we do to each other. It's because of the mind of man. And I think what happens with astrology is it becomes this kind of like scapegoat technology. It becomes something to point at and blame for either the individual's inability to take personal responsibility
mhm,
or the desire to put forth your best efforts to risk. And what we see is the world rewards those who risk. And everyone wants to learn something new to kind of bypass that that desire to actually attain skills. So what I see most of the time when I'm getting into tarot stuff or people that call themselves astrologers is they've implemented a system and they don't want to just admit that the only reason this exists is because of their knowledge of its existence. And that is very different from saying that it rules over you. Because what we've learned from the quantum side of things is something only exists because you witness it. Until you witness it, it is not even a thing. It doesn't exist. All existence is because of your witness. And until you observe it, it is not real. So it is real, Israel. It is real when you've looked at it, when you've perceived it. And astrology, what we come to find out is it matters most to those who believe in it. So now we make it like a religion, which is very much what I see it to be. And this is why I'm very cautious of the commitment to some of these ideas that are taught in any form of astrology. And I do the same thing with gematria because I've seen some people, and I'm not going to name names, and I don't want this to be dramatic, but I've seen some people that say they're utilizing gematria, but then they're taking a number and then they're using it to blame a whole group of people. Like they're like, these are the connections that makes it so the Jews are bad people. And I'm like, what does that even mean? That's the most like elementary way of looking at numbers because numbers aren't good or evil. It's the same thing like when people say Jupiter is lucky. What? But in order to have lucky, someone else has to be unlucky, right? That's what luck is. When you go to a casino and you're lucky, it's because you won and other people lost. So why? Why do we associate that stuff when it never even comes back to mythology? Because before you had this Jupiter thing in the sky, you had mythology, right? And before you had it be Jupiter or Zeus, it was something else. It goes back to Hadad, or it'll go back to some deity that's way before the invention of astrology.
Mhm. And yet the markets follow sometimes very clearly, especially the crypto markets that I've observed from your graphs that you're sharing, they follow very closely the movements of these planets in the sky. So even if we're not directly observing them, yes, maybe we are reinforcing what is already in motion, but it is existing. It is already there, moving,
Yeah,
and it
and
is.
because
Mhm,
it's digital now, more people get to observe it.
mhm,
You understand?
yeah.
Before, 100 years ago, when something happened in Palestine, nobody knew. But now you can go on X and you could learn what's happening in Palestine every second of your life from different vantage points. You can get it from the vantage point of the Israelis. You could get it from the vantage point of people who are Palestinian. You could get it from the vantage point of mainstream legacy media. You could get it from the vantage. You see where I'm going with this? You
Mm.
know, 100 years ago, you didn't have a private person with their cell phone recording stuff and putting it on social media for everyone to see instantaneously. So I think the witness and the observance thing that I brought up before is the key here. If you
Mhm,
disregard that truth, it's going to make a lot of other truths difficult.
mhm,
So I'm not discrediting by any means astrology and its utility, hence why I use it in my work, but I'm using it from a perhaps a different foundation than most people. Like I don't believe in anything, and I very much resonate with the quote, belief is a barrier, not a bridge.
mhm.
And I love all the tools, but I've realized that a tool could also be a weapon, right? You can use a hammer to build a house. You could also use a hammer to smash a window.
Yeah.
So I think until we figure out how to be more neutral about all these tools, it might be a little bit tough for us to use them, right? Because a lot of the time we're being educated on how to use something. It's funny, right? Like if you watch an astrologer's YouTube channel, usually you can say, "Oh, I've heard that before," right? Because they learned from somebody else.
Mhm,
And I love music so much, and I try to implement music in my creations, in my art. So it's like a jam band. So when you come to my work, you're like, I'm not even sure if I've heard that before. Because I'm trying to be more jam-like with it. I'm trying to be more fluid and not as structured. But I completely understand that I need to create a structured system to help people, right? So I'm just kind of answering your question from multiple vantage points. I think for me, I just love having fun with it all. You know what I mean? And then some
mm.
people come to me and they're like, "Oh, but Waters, the market is up on a full moon. I thought you said that the market is No, it's context. You need context. It's like saying I thought the hammer only builds houses. No, it doesn't. It's used to murder people sometimes. You can't just come back to the person who built the hammer and blame them because somebody used it to bash in somebody's. You see? Like
Yeah,
this
let's
is
talk
this
about
is
this
huge.
as an analogy now, the tool, the hammer, which for
Yeah.
me is also crypto. Um, because I mean, and I've mentioned it, and you've mentioned it in your live streams as well.
Hmm.
that people are now very hyped up about crypto going up, and but they're not thinking about all the other people that will be maybe suffering and having trouble making ends meet. Whenever crypto rises, it will be because of the general economic downturn, possibly. Whenever it rises significantly, not we are only at the beginning.
Hmm.
Um, and at some point, for crypto to be at extremely high levels, there needs to be some sort of a restart. What is your opinion on the overall future of crypto?
I think blockchain technology is in a very interesting place right now. It's in a very precarious spot because we once had a conversation about crypto quite recently, right? I mean, 4 years ago, the energy that we all had around crypto was that we don't want any government involvement. We don't want any institutional involvement. We want this to be like sovereign, free market, like real money for once. It was a solution to the Federal Reserve having an infinite amount of ledgers that none of us are able to look at, right? They can just print money out of thin air and none of us know it. They give us one public ledger for, shits and giggles, but it's not truth. And then they could do whatever they want on the sidelines. Bitcoin, for instance, and by the way, I'm not a Bitcoin maxi and I'm not like, that's not my only holding. So for anyone who's listening, like, I'm not here to promote Bitcoin. I could care less. But just to keep things simple and to answer your question, Bitcoin was a solution to something like what the Federal Reserve does because it's all on the public blockchain. It's all the transactions you can go look at. You could see yeah, right. So you get it. And the point to get to here is because of the SEC versus Ripple case that happened, this has been a complete transition because now we like government all of a sudden. I'm not speaking for myself, but I'm speaking for the people that are like now occupying the crypto space. People are happy when the judge declares that this cryptocurrency is not a security. And now judges are becoming famous off of this. Lawyers are becoming famous off of this, but it's the complete antithesis of where we started with this whole cryptocurrency thing.
Mm.
So, in my opinion, the Ripple versus SEC case, it created something that people didn't even see. They didn't even realize. It's a sleight of hand, right? The New World Order always does things like a magician. They want you to look over here so you're not looking over there. So, what you were giving your attention to was the hope that this will be over, this case I'm talking about, and that Ripple will win and that my coin will go up forever, right? It's always like whatever pumps my bags is what makes me happy. But on the other side, throughout those 4 years, and it's still ongoing somewhat, we started worshiping government again. We started worshiping the system and we didn't even realize it, right? Because the purpose of that particular token is for the banks. They're not shy about it. They straight up tell you. And by the way, I am a very big XRP holder. So what I'm saying right now is not negative. It's just neutral truth. So we went from being like really pro sovereignty, all about like freedom, to now we're like back in the crypto government side of things. We want regulations for some reason, like we want more government involvement. It's crazy. And I think where we're headed is a place where there will be tons of regulation, like we always expected. The institutions will own it all. People, regular people, are unfortunately, they don't have enough money to risk in this asset. And usually, when they do, is at the worst time, right? They buy the top and then panic sell. And the hyperinflation is a real deal. Like people are paying more than ever for food, gas, etc. And having that excess money in the background to just invest in this game is not going to be a viable opportunity, I don't think, as we go forward. So you made a good point in the starting uh, in the start of your question, and I think part of me agrees. There's the other part of me that says a lot of money can flow into this market from retail because humans speculate at the worst times. So we're about to move into like that FOMO phase, and that's how the dot-com bubble ended. The dot-com bubble ended in a similar way. And I think that we are kind of in bubble territory across the board, you know? Like looking at $100,000 Bitcoin is pretty wild, right? Like that was an unthinkable thing. And then now we're desensitized to it and people are complaining that it's crashing when it's down to 97. And I'm like, this thing 2 months ago was like, you see, like it's only people that pay attention to it that even have this feeling and have this energy. But I think on the next move up, we're going to see so much FOMO from retail at the worst time, in my opinion. Could be next month, could be the month after that. And then those people are going to they're going to be part of the rug pull. And then they're going to be scared of crypto. And then that's where the regulations will come in because they want you to fall. And then when you're laying on the ground, they want you to call them, the
Mm.
government. That's how humans have become, where we like our state. We like using the services and all of the things that are controlled by government, yet we complain about them and we all have our opinions. But I kind of guess I'll finish it off with that. I think we're going to see the market move up from retail and a mix of institutions and a mix from government and maybe even technocratic big companies like Microsoft might buy some Bitcoin. I mean, if Apple turned around tomorrow and said they were buying Bitcoin, Bitcoin would go up
I
to
think they already
120.
announced their plans, or were they just advised?
Yeah, I
Microsoft. I
think,
know that
yeah,
Amazon also announced their plans to buy some Bitcoin, I think.
yeah, there you go. That's all we need. That's all we need. And this thing will go straight to like 150, 170,000 real quick. And we'll see so much FOMO just off the news, right? And you've been following my work for a long time, and I always say this, the news is north, east, west, south. It's the broken compass. It's designed to get you lost. So when you use the news, you're more lost than where you were before you consumed it. And I think, did I answer your question on that?
Yes, but I have an additional question that
Okay,
arose. So before we go into specifics of the next few months and maybe what your opinion is, if you want to share some rough predictions,
sure.
let's paint the big picture first. Because most technology, as we all know here, most big technologies are first introduced by the industrial military complex, including probably Bitcoin, very likely. So all of this is well planned in advance. The whole movement of taking away your privacy, moving your money in a controllable
Mhm.
environment. So do you think that if people jumped in on the train of crypto early enough, they would be able to make use of their money in a future system? Or do you think that the safety valves on behalf of regulators and the apex predator, as you call them, do you think they've introduced safety valves for people that would be like rogue and out of the system?
Hmm. Are you saying that you're thinking that they're going to create a system that you can't be outside of, or if you get in
It's
now, you have
possible
the
that they don't
opportunity?
allow you. It's possible that you're not going to be allowed to trade your crypto unless you meet certain requirements.
Yeah. I'm just making sure that I'm understanding your question. So the also the earlier part you said, if you were to get into it now, that you'd kind of be bypassing this potential draconian, order to come.
At
Is that what
any
you're
point,
thinking?
whether you're entering at any point, would
Yeah.
anybody be able to bypass this, or do you think that they've installed these safety valves for themselves
Yeah.
to, yeah.
I think this is an awesome question, and nobody asks it, and it's great to consider because what would be the framework to prevent? Well, they can make it like an accredited situation, right? Where like yeah, you oh man, if
like
that,
like like what's been talked about, like having whatever IDs needed to access the internet, and
sure,
for example, or even if the possibility exists of trading offline, like whatever they stipulate for
yeah.
Ripple, for
hmm
XRP, maybe the safety valve will even be applicable for this scenario.
It's really interesting. It's of course all theoretical, but
Yes.
we have to talk about a couple things. First and foremost is what would be the chaos to lead to that order, right? Because that's the way the New World Order works.
Mm-hmm.
I think now that I've looked at a bull run go from, watching some altcoins in 2021 go up 100,000%. We saw some altcoins in 2021 go up 50,000%. Like this is unbelievable, right? And then we watched them all lose 95 to 99% of their value, and no regulations came in the whole time. They just distracted us with the FTX thing, the Terra Luna thing. The CZ went to jail for like 6 months or whatever, and then they just said, okay, go back to the gambling casino, have fun.
Mm,
There's a part of me that answers your question by saying, I think, and this is a shared theory that I've kind of been gathering from another person that I communicate with, who thinks that they're going to rewrite the tax code completely for 2025. And this won't just be for the United States. It could be some uniform thing, especially in the European Union, and potentially in places that already have a very technocratic infrastructure, such
mm,
as China, Australia. Let's just call it all the whole world at this point, because all the people that can even get into crypto are the countries I would name, right?
mm,
So moving forward, when they do this rewrite of the tax code, I think it's gonna create, I don't even know how to really say this, but I think it's gonna create the infrastructure for something like a UBI or
mhm,
something like very, very rough, Because UBI is absolutely fucked up if you
mm,
think about it. And
mm,
it's wild to me that people even promote politicians that come up with such an idea, and then they fail to realize like what's the ramifications of moving forward with such a change. But now, and this isn't to be pro-Trump or to speak about presidents as if they have power, but I think we can all agree that Trump is a businessman. I don't know where you're located or what area it would affect you and your
I'm
target
in
audience.
Austria. I'm in
Okay.
Austria, but people watch from all over the world.
Okay, great, great,
US,
great.
India, Europe, everywhere.
Awesome. That's great. So like yeah, I mean, I think in general, we just watched a whole political like a Netflix series. We went from
The whole
having
world watched it, Waters.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
People from
like
the US think that only you're watching it, but the whole world is watching.
we had the Trump, Boris Johnson plus the dude in Australia, I forgot his name. Like we had pretty much across the board the most incompetent like business focused people who usually just take orders like and say they're yes men. And I know people who like Trump might get triggered at me saying that, but like remember what his first 4 years was. You can't like just whitewash history. Like it is what it is, guys. Like signing over to FEMA, like there was a lot of stupid shit that guy did at the end, that should have never even been a thought. But again, when it's business, business is business. Like
Mm,
you put everyone under the guillotine to make more profits.
mm,
So I kind of think that with another, and I don't know how Austria changed or like if Europe completely changed. I feel it kind of has maybe like as the recoil to a very liberal environment in general for the
mm.
past 4 to 8 years.
It
Perhaps
did.
that recoil has made it so now everything is like ultra conservative. That's just my assumption. But that was all programmed by design. That was all programmed. It was like the reason they had the George Bush leading to the Obama. It's
Mm,
all like a perfect crescendo that leads up to this. So to get to the point of my answer, Trump is so business thirsty that I think he wants the shit coins and the meme coins and all this fake money. Like he will be promoting the idea of the gambling casino staying open for as long as humanly possible. So when I think about regulation of crypto with him, and the administration that's moving in, I know it's going to happen. I just don't know what that chaos would be that would lead to that order that you mentioned.
mm,
Because if they were to make it so you have to be accredited and it was only just a cash grab, okay, I'll answer this in two parts. Imagine it's just a cash grab. Like if you want to go to Australia, you have to get a ETA or you have to get some sort of thing and it's like 15 bucks. And you're like, "Oh, that's cheap." But if you measure that, if you do the multiplicity of $15 times the million, 2 million, three fucking 20 million people that want to go to Australia every year that need this document, that's a lot of fucking money that was just generated out of thin air, right? This is like when you load up your Uber app and you look at how much money, or I don't know if you have a Bolt or some other system, but like when you look up how many hidden fees are in there, you multiply that by millions of people every single day. And you're like, oh, I see what's going on here. So there's that answer. If they wanted us to become accredited and it's just a cash grab of like, you have to pay $50 and pass a quick test online to be given some sort of number that's latched onto your social security or your tax identification number, sure. I think a lot of people would still just continue to play the game and it would be fine. But if they said you have to give us your wallet addresses for all of your hardware wallets, for everything you have. You need to tell us everything you're doing. And if you don't, you're going to be a felon. This is what they did in 1933.
With the
This is the
gold confiscation. They did it in
exactly.
Europe as well. Did you know?
No.
Yeah,
What year did they do that?
I think around the same time.
Oh my God. When we're done with this conversation, can you send me whatever that legislation was that passed? Because I've never heard of this before. That's amazing.
Mm.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay, like this opens up a couple other conversations, but I'll just leave it at that. Like I have, if it's gonna be that way, it's a two-part answer. It's either it's an immediate cash grab by the government to just get your $50, have you pass a test, and then they say do whatever you want to do in this gambling casino, or it's really fucking draconian and it's like tell us everything you've been doing here. You need to tell us what all your wallets are. If you own a hardware wallet, will probably be a question on your tax return. Because now there's a question on the front page of the American tax return that says, "Do you have crypto?" It will probably be another box that says, "Do you have a hardware wallet?" And if you do not let us know about this hardware wallet, you're effectively going to be a felon and a criminal. And it would be no different than hoarding a bunch of gold somewhere or, whatever the fuck people do. If you wanted to buy gold in one place and then put it in your suitcase and then fly to another country, you have to declare that at customs, right?
Mm.
But you don't do this with crypto. Well, they're
Not
catching on
yet.
to what I just said. Exactly, not yet. So they're
I
catching
was
on to what I'm saying.
contemplating about this too more recently.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've thought about all this shit a million times, and it's why, again, I see the sleight of hand of the whole Ripple SEC case and the having Gary Gensler and having all this, now quote unquote pro crypto administration moving in and the euro becoming digitized. And like, we're just on the brink of like something is to come. I just don't know how
Well,
much chaos they can pull
regarding
off.
that,
Mhm.
regarding the chaos that you're referring to, or what other people call Black Swan event or whatever,
Sure, sure,
there are
sure.
a lot of stipulations now from Cliff High. You're aware of him, I know, but maybe you haven't watched him.
I'm actually, I don't know any of his work, but I am aware of him. Yeah.
Yeah. So very briefly, basically, he has a software that scrapes off of forums and other internet comments, words that are out of context. So he claims that they leak out of the subconscious mind that already has this preemptive information before it happens. And he's had quite a few hits, as a matter of fact, of events, including uh,
There was supposed to be one though recently, right?
the
Like a, like
15th
a,
of July, the first assassination attempt of Trump.
Mhm.
He didn't predict that it would be an assassination attempt, but he was talking about a fast-moving flying object. So
Mhm.
that's and chaos coming, and people would be talking about it till the end of December. That's all I remember about his prediction. But it was more or less exact. It was a significant event that he nailed to the date. And so he's talking now about an event of significance. It's like an appearance of UAPs, the new UFOs.
Yeah, I heard about this. It was supposed to be like December 3rd.
But actually, lots of people report that there have been reports of sightings everywhere around the world. So he might
Hmm.
be not so far off.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, hey, if you have any of this insight back at what was it, 18 years ago or something like that, the initial program read out that like the
Yeah,
trigger
in
point would be.
2009. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's fucking crazy. Like if he's inaccurate by a year, that's still mind-blowing, right?
Yeah,
Because like just think about it. Like Donald Trump having a podcast with Joe Rogan was the trigger point. That
that's
was what
right.
I was told. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. And that would lead to a huge chaos. And by the way, he's not the only one that predicts that. I've also been watching some remote viewer groups
Hmm.
and they've been also pointing to the same, to huge chaos and the military confusion, especially on US territory. So,
Yeah, I'm really interested, but it feels like every year somebody, and again, I'm not gonna name any names, but like everyone has this like doom and gloom
yeah, that's
report for
true.
the for specifically the United States, and I find that to be very fascinating. Like, although, when we say United States, people need to remember that Texas is like effectively larger than Spain,
Hmm.
right? So like, what are we even saying? When we say the United States, it's like you're yeah, it's just such a massive country with so many people, and a lot of people are just like everyone else. Like I've lived in Australia, and
Mhm.
the people in Australia are literally just like Americans. Like I know
People are the
that'll
same
offend.
everywhere in my experience.
Exact,
I've lived in five
exactly.
countries, people are the same.
Oh my God. Yeah, like I remember like I went to Italy for the first time maybe like 12 years ago, like pretty decent amount of time ago, and I was talking to somebody who's a college student and he was just literally complaining about the Pope. And I'm like, "Why does this bother you?" Like, and it's like that was his thing. He was like, "We all hate the Pope here or whatever." And I'm like, everyone hates everyone in this world, it seems. It's like the more you hate this so-called people in power, you lose your power.
Mm.
And that was something I learned really on that wherever you go, there's just going to be most of the human species complains about politicians, complains about taxes, complains about whatever, inflation. It's like, so anyways, I think I don't want to say it's dangerous to predict that America is going to go through some downfall, but so far it's been the most dangerous prediction because look at what happened like in the Ukraine situation. Look at what happened in Israel recently. Like I have people who support my work who like they
Mm.
didn't listen to what I was saying about the Shemitah and the Jubilee year, and I was super fucking serious about that.
Mm.
And now they were writing back to me after this event on October 7th last year, being like, I have family that's stuck that like can't go anywhere.
Mhm.
And like again, I'm not trying to be the guy who's right, but it's like everyone wants to talk about this impeding civil war, like apocalypse in the United States of America. But like, open your eyes, man. Look at what's going on in the real world.
Mm.
Like, look at what happened in Melbourne, Australia during C-19. It was
Or in
insane.
Syria right now.
It's insane. And
Mm.
people are talking shit about like I was in Virginia hanging out with my mom, going to the grocery store, no mask, nothing, just chilling. Meanwhile, people in Australia needed to provide paperwork to go to the fucking, pharmacy.
Mhm.
I'm talking about in 2020, 21. Like, I just think, yeah, I don't know. I'm not like pro America or anything. I just, as a decoder and somebody who like is responsible for predictions, I've just over the past 2 to 3 years realized that my voice has power. So if I come out and say certain things, I realize that it could change the whole shape of somebody's decisions. And at one time, I thought very differently about that, but now I take it very seriously. And I'm very grateful that I have the opportunity to be a part of anyone's journey. But I've
Mhm.
just seen way too much of this predictive stuff where it's like, get out of America, or get out of here, or get out of here. And then nothing goes wrong there. But then the place they move to has flash floods.
No, but you also never know who is behind these predictions, really, whether they've been installed by, a whisperer of some sort.
Yeah, I kind of feel that there might be something to that because I'm a big believer in intuition. I'm a big believer that like if there was something called God, it's your intuition and it knows better than you know. Like your mind is just a file cabinet and you should be making your decisions from your heart. And we get too caught up in our mind too often. That's what makes me a better investor, actually. Like if I had to tell somebody like what's the key to success as an investor, get out of your mind. Your mind is like the garbage disposal for all the information. Like, I love this show Silo. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's not super
No.
popular. It's pretty amazing though. I'm sure people in your community would really appreciate it. It's only available, I think, on Apple TV though, which is kind of a caveat. But it's this. It kind of aligns with a theory that I have called Crater Earth, not flat Earth, not what, but it's this. Anyways, that's a different conversation. But this society lives in like a fallout, like there was like some nuclear war or something, and they all live in a silo that is underground. So they're living in a underground base effectively.
Mm.
And they are creating a hierarchy based on how high up you live. So the people that live at the absolute bottom are like, kind of like the poor people. And then, it's the same thing as that movie Snowpiercer, right? And they're always showing you this kind of imagery in Hollywood. But anyways, the people who are all the way at the bottom, one of their main jobs is to receive all the garbage or all the electronics that are no longer working or just stuff, you know? And it's their job to sift through like what's the good, like what's the stuff that we could repurpose, or what's the stuff that's absolutely not usable and just garbage, right? That's what your mind is. Your mind is like a factory of thousands, millions of people that all it has to do, those little people inside of your mind, they have to just find like, okay, that's a hubcap. What could I do with this? This is tire rubber. What could I do with this? This is a steering wheel. What can I do with this? Okay, this is too broken. Throw it away. Like your mind is not for anything otherwise. And when I realized that, my whole fucking life changed. Seriously.
You're
I
now
became
starting
more.
an academy or a university, something related to conscious awareness. What was it called? The
Yeah, I'm starting this in January. It's called Waters Above University, and the idea here is to yeah, be kind of the glitch in the matrix because I feel like right now we're dealing with too much nervousness, uncertainty. People don't have the confidence. And there's been an interview lately that's been done where they went around asking people like, what do you feel about the future? And like nobody feels good. Like a lot of nervousness, a lot of depression, a lot of people defaulting to non-human interactions. We see AI bots are becoming quite popular now.
Mhm.
So yeah, like I think all of that has motivated me tremendously to create something where it's like whatever you can call the problem of our future, here's my solution, and here's why I don't think those things are problems if you're honorable and you put in the work. Like if you do those two things and you have some system, some systemization, you're going to be invincible for the future. Like, so whatever they're going to throw your way, like we will have some sort of way to pivot, you know? So that's what Waters Above University is going to be all about. It'll definitely be talking a lot about business because a lot of people want to monetize their passion. So that's something I'm clearly hip to, and I want to help as many people as possible with that. But then there's a lot of other things going on. Like there'll be a lot of crazy movements in the markets, and people want to know, like, what do I do with all this profit that I'm making? So it's a way to roll over your money. Uh, not necessarily, but it'll have opportunities and systems of what could you do with your profits as opposed to the last bull run. People sold and then they were just like going back to work and doing their normal job and they were like gonna wait for the bottom, and I'm like, why wait? What are you gonna do, wait 2 years for the bottom, like, and then just go back to your normal thing? So I think that mindset needs to be recalibrated. And I hope that there's some of the things that I've been doing week by week, have inspired people along the way. But I'm very much a doer. I'm very much an action taker. So I don't live my life by what's going to happen in 2 months and how will I do something about that. That's not how I operate. So I want to teach people how to be more present, be more now, and also integrate the idea of business, integrate the idea of investment, integrate the idea of just lifestyle, and have it be from that posture, um, as opposed to this whole 1 year from now, 2 year from now, what are we going to do if Trump like does this? It's like I don't live my life based on what Trump's going to do. Like, and you're never going to have a good life if you do either.
Yeah, because at some point the whole crypto game, I mean, or at least the individual investors, could be excluded of the game. And so, what do all of these people do with their lives suddenly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things to this. I
Mhm.
already think we've went through like a branch off because of the C19 event. So many people don't realize this. There's like this spiritual people
Mhm.
who I'm not trying to trigger anything. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but the people that talk about like the going into the 5D and that kind of stuff, it's like there's already been a shift.
Mm.
The shift is that you realize that some people are zombies. We went through a zombie apocalypse. Like, you know, because when if you were enlightened to what was going on and somebody told you to put on a mask and you said, "Why would I do that?" That person would literally bite you. They were a zombie. They were losing their minds. They thought you were a serious threat if you weren't 6 feet apart from them. This is a mind parasite, okay? So the same thing when people are like turning their children trans when they're 7 or 6. What are you doing? This kid doesn't even know about sex yet. What the hell is happening here? It's a mind parasite. So there's
But
already been a
you
branch
notice
off
that
society.
people never admit they're wrong, whatever the topic is. Have you noticed?
Well,
Even
you know,
if you give them all the proof on a silver platter to
yeah.
consume, they will never admit. They
Well,
will.
I learned over time that you're not here to prove anything right or wrong. Like you're not here to be the judge. Like you're here to be the observer.
Mhm.
And when you get to a place, and I'm not trying to teach you, of course, how to be, and this is not to teach anyone how to be, it's just a
I'm happy to
realization.
accept some teachings.
Well, I mean, it's something I've realized in my life because I always had a strong opinion about everything. You know, people would either hate me for my opinion or they would really appreciate me for my opinion. And I realize this now that a leader has to make choices for other people, right? Like if you're a mother, you make choices for your child. And that's your responsibility for a moment. And then eventually they grow up, then they could start making choices for themselves. But you're the steward of their reality for quite some time. And that's a responsibility you take on. Now, there's some people who are coded for this matrix who are very just naturally leaders. And I don't necessarily believe that we're coded to be the Morpheus. And I think that's the fuck up that happens to a lot of us, you know? Like we're coded to think that, oh, I know stuff now because I'm awake. That makes me have the truth. And it's like, nope, you failed the test. Like you're not here to do that.
Mm.
You're just not. Like, if you watch the Matrix movie and realize that Neo is the neocortex and
Mm.
Morpheus is the god of dreams, he's just you could call him the
The
unconscious.
unconscious, yeah.
Exactly. And Trinity is his subconscious, right? Anyways, I don't want to go so deep into that. Funny that I brought that up now because I have this new installment coming soon to that decoding mastermind that I made called the Trinity Masterclass, and it's gonna talk quite a bit about this from like a utility perspective because I don't just like to share stuff for no reason.
Mhm.
Getting back to my initial thing that I was bringing up is that my whole life I always wanted to prove people wrong. And then one time I had a conversation with somebody that was very wise, and they said, just give it a shot to like let those people think that what they're right about is what the truth is. And I started to just completely change from that moment because I realized how much calories I was burning to put into proving my point. And it is almost tough. It's tough for somebody to be in my position where they have so many people that could critique them every second of every day, right? Because I release a video or I release a clip of something or I share an idea, and I have to now be accepting of the scrutiny. You know what I mean? And there's a moment
Everybody
where
who
you're
shows themselves up are subject to scrutiny. So,
sure. And that's the other piece as a leader is like, then you have to realize that hate is still currency.
mm,
Like hate is gold. You just need to know how to transmute. Like you're all architects if you're listening to this right now. Yeah, you're all alchemists. So all that hate and all that negativity that you receive, it's up to you to become an alchemist.
mm,
And once you learn how to do that, you'll see like the changes that makes. Because I get it. Like when you have truth, you want to help. You want to help. When you find out that the jab is like literally killing people, you're like, you don't want to see people die, right? You get it. I get it. We all get it. I didn't want that shit to happen. I have a really funny story about that, actually. You probably heard it before, though.
yeah, I don't know. Please share.
It was just, during C19, I was talking real negative about this whole jab situation. Like I was just fucking fed up about it. I couldn't take it anymore.
Mhm.
And I was like ranting to my mom. I visited my mom for a couple days and I was just ranting to her and she's adamantly against it because my baby sister was inoculated and almost died when she was young. So my mom like was like, we're never doing that shit again. Okay. Like she had a real life experience. So
Yeah.
she wasn't an anti-jabber. You know what I mean? That
Mm,
wasn't her. She was like a real person who went through a real experience. She doesn't know anything about like RFK Jr. or about like the change in the jab schedule of it. She knows nothing.
mm,
Okay. But I was there like on my high horse and I'm being super vulnerable right now with everyone. Like I was just there on my high horse and I was like speaking all the facts, you know, like all the stuff you would hear from like some documentary. And I was just like fed up with the way the world was reacting to this cultural moment, right? Of this scam. And my mom left the room and she came back with my medical records and it had all of the jabs that I got as a child. And she was like, you know, you've become successful. You've become somebody that, you know, people count on. You've been able to accomplish these things. I watched it with my own eyes. Yet you had all these shots too. And look at how everything's going for you. And I was like, I felt like Mike Tyson uppercutted me. Like it was the best moment of my life. It was the best moment. And I'm so glad that I had the consciousness to allow her that moment. And like I wasn't embarrassed or ashamed. Like I was a man, right, at the time. So it was like, it's okay for you to just red pill me. She
yeah.
literally, and it was such a beautiful moment. And I'm so grateful that she did that. And that moment didn't like make me pro jab. It didn't make me like confident that I should take these things. It just showed me that like perhaps there's something spiritual going on that none of us have any control over. And there's a reason why some people, quote unquote, die or their soul slips out of this body. And there's a reason why some of us are born, right? Like, I very much believe that I asked to be here. And if I asked to be here, then that means it's going to take a lot to take me down.
Mm, mm.
You know what I mean?
I think a lot of people are going through a similar process or ways of thinking or maybe even emotions as you are, like a similar path I'm observing. And also there comes a point when you're like first giving up, I don't want to deal with convincing anybody, and then you're allowing everybody to be as they are. And in in the end, you know, whether somebody, as you say, survives or dies, it's all about, as you say, the energy, the desire. Some call it now, in a more scientific term, epigenetics, but in
Hmm.
the end, it's the same thing. It's your desire to accomplish things, to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your survival skills aren't even skills. You know, like I very much feel I've gone through so many moments in my life now at this point where an angel shows up exactly when it needs to. You know what I mean?
Like you literally see an angel.
No, no, no. Like I mean
Ah.
like okay, yeah, let me lay some groundwork real quick. Like I think like if you slip and fall and like twist your ankle and now you can't make it to like the next meeting that you had to go to or whatever or like go to
Mhm,
work,
mhm.
like you probably needed to not go to that place that day.
Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. It's a saving
Like
grace.
yeah, like God is your ankle twisting.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you didn't get to make money today, you didn't get to do whatever, but like you weren't supposed to. And there was probably red flags that were waved before you slipped.
Mhm,
Okay? Like, I mean, fuck, if you can get in touch with that, then oh my God. That's like what I feel like I've been able to tap into with the markets. Like, I have been able to tap into some source energy where like before I quote unquote twist my ankle, I know how to react or respond.
mhm,
So I think God is when the dog bites you. I think God is when you, you know, get into a car crash, hopefully not die. I think God is all of the negative things too, because it's everything that was, will be, and will always, and it's just, it's all, it's the all. And if you want to only make it good things, or you only, and then you want to blame people who, you know, were part of some traumatic event in your life, like a divorce or whatever, it's like you needed that.
Mm,
You needed all of that to make you who you are today. Like
mm,
another thing to bring up with the mythology is like that's very much what Mercury is, Hermes. It's the trickster, but it's the messenger. So it's the twisted ankle.
mhm,
It's like it's that moment, it's that lack of communication, right? You know when you get into an argument with somebody and you're just like the reason you're so mad is because it's almost like they don't want to understand you. Like
mhm,
it's not that they don't understand you, because when
mm,
you're calm, we're always able to understand each other. But when we're in a heated argument, it's like you flip your switch to make it so like I'm going to do everything in my power to not understand you.
mhm.
And it goes from being a relationship into an experiment, right?
Yeah. Well, to me, it's about training it's what you're saying is put in different words, or in my worldview.
Sure.
It is about being aware and constantly observing what is happening to you and what it means, like searching for the meaning. I mean, you don't have to make a job out of that to constantly think about something, but when something is confronting you in the face two, three times, it's clearly knocking on the door to be noticed. So yeah, there are signs to be read out there. Do you
And
have
it's
some time
it's
to?
showing.
Yeah,
Yeah. I have a couple more minutes I
couple
can hang out
minutes.
with you.
Hmm. Yeah, finish your thought, and then I'm gonna move
No,
on with
no,
the next question.
I was just gonna say that it's like I guess this could be put under the category of like reprogramming your subconscious, but I like to believe that all of our mistakes were our greatest choices.
Hmm.
And that like affirmation is something I try to tell myself often to so I could be grateful for my mishaps
Hmm.
because now I see them as they're part of the divine unraveling, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, what were you gonna ask?
Yeah, I was wondering whether you have some time to move more onto the specifics of the next few months or the next month, or what can we expect from the crypto market, and I don't know, what would you
Sure,
advise people to do on their way to
sure.
Richmond independence?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very broad topic with regards to cryptocurrency. I
Yeah.
think like for the top projects such as Ethereum, Solana, Binance, XRP, Bitcoin, these are kind of in a territory of like I would not recommend people consider those as investments at this time because they're already quite high and the ROI potential for the time horizon is maybe not as lucrative as it would have been, let's just say like 7 or 8 months ago. We're like we're in a place where you can definitely consider many projects. But now it would take some education on what those particular projects can be. But this idea of just like getting into crypto right now, I don't want to say like the train has left the station, but the train is kind of like leaving the station, you know? And it's irresponsible for somebody in my position to be like, yeah, just get into crypto right now because you need to be given the disclaimer that you've joined this party late. There's still a couple of people hanging out with you who are drunk. You might be the only sober person there. You're green to this, right? You're new, and you're probably going to be dissatisfied when you're talking to a room full of drunks. And I might be the only sober guy in there with you hanging out, you know?
So does that mean that you're expecting a reversal soon?
No, it's that like I think we're up a lot, and I think that's a dangerous time to be getting in because you're at the beginning of the end,
Mm-hmm.
basically. You
Mm-hmm.
know? And I know this sounds super discouraging, but trust me, guys, like if you heard me saying to just FOMO into this market right now with no disclaimer, and then in 3 months the market tops out and then reverses, you would want to find where I live and, kidnap me. And I see people are very dangerous right now. I see million people, a million follower YouTube channels telling people to just like go all in right now. And I don't trust that because I was here last cycle. I was here at the same point. That was how I was able to predict that we would move up at this time because I was in the same moment. And I remember the sentiment. I remember the behavior. I remember people taking out like mortgages, like refinancing their homes and throwing it into Dogecoin, like when it was already at the top.
Mm-hmm.
That's stupid. Okay. It did not turn out well. So my time horizon is that I think Bitcoin, and this is me giving direct answers, Bitcoin is likely to initially top somewhere at the end of January, but I don't think that's the end of the overall cycle. So just keep it super simple here. I will call it an initial peak. And then I think a month later, we're going to see a lot of altcoins, including Ethereum, Solana, XRP, etc. They will top for an initial peak. And then by March, in the middle of March, the specific event is the total lunar eclipse that we're having on March 14th. And the reason that's so significant is because that's the start of a lunar cycle. Now, that would require so much information and breakdown. Can't do that right now, but that lunar cycle, every time we start it, it's been met by either the end of a bull run or at least a significant correction across the board. Um, so for instance, in May 2021, at the end of May, we had a total lunar eclipse to start the lunar cycle. Bitcoin had a 56% correction. Yes, it recovered to the end of 2024, but it was only a double top. So it did not like go up much higher than where it was in March, April, for instance. So what we're moving into right now is that beginning of the end. Like we're there because I'm talking to you about a date that's 3 months from now. You understand? So
Hmm.
it's not like your time horizon on this is so tight that yes, we're likely to go up past New Year. We're likely to make money. So like if you put money in crypto, the probability is you'll be making money. Okay. But then I hope you gather, you at least enter a community or surround yourself by some people that will be honest with you along the way. I'm not promoting my community. I'm not telling anyone to join. I'm just saying,
Well, I may promote it instead of you then.
well,
Could
like
you
I'm
go to
just
watersabove.com and sign your
I just worry, I want people to know I'm a real one. Like I really want to help and I'm being honest here. Like we only have about a 3 month time horizon. It's likely that we move up, but between now and then, it's going to be the craziest roller coaster ride of your life. Like we will see a project go up 40% in one day, and then the next day it'll lose 20%, and then the day after that it'll go up another 10%. And you're like, what the hell is going on here? You won't know if it's crashing or not. You won't know unless you're with a specialist, somebody who really knows what's going on. And I hope that I provide that. I have that Patreon mastermind community. It's 9.99 a month, so it's $10. And every single week I'm releasing a podcast and I'm keeping people active in it. And I'm also sharing my live updates of whenever I buy or sell. So that's a perk. But I'm not telling people to copy me because remember, I got in this market at the beginning of the bear market. So people that are just joining today, like, yes, there's money to be made. The probability of you being able to make money right now is very high, but you're gonna be, I don't know what the laws are in Europe. I don't know what the laws are around the world. So you say you have a global community. That means if I was to just tell you from a US standpoint, you're gonna get short-term capital gains taxes. That's the highest tax bracket. So you have to think about that. So
Yeah,
yes, there's a lot
in
of,
Europe as well.
sure. So there's
Yeah,
a lot of
they're
money.
actually, you'd be surprised, but in Austria specifically, and I think the majority of Europe, you're taxed at the time of selling on an exchange. So the exchange taxes you.
Oh my God. So well, in one way that's nice, but in the other way that sucks because if
It
you're like a
sucks.
business, yeah, because okay, fuck. Um, anyways, so I'm just talking about the tax implication of a
Mm.
short-term trade. So you'd be getting in soon, you'd be getting out soon. The odds are you're gonna make money. You're gonna have that short-term capital gains. This is just me telling the absolute truth right now. Now, after we have probably a decent correction, I will personally be buying. That is a very risky thing that I am telling you, though. So that's like April, May. I will probably buy that dip because I have a prediction or a theory. This isn't factual, it's a theory that into August, before we have our second lunar eclipse of our lunar cycle, which will be September 7th, I believe, of 2025, there's an opportunity for us to move up one more time.
Mhm.
It's tough for me to entertain us moving up past that. And it's also tough for me to entertain at this time. Of course, things can change. I'm a year out, or yeah, 7 months out from this idea. So I could adjust it over time, but I'm giving you this information early that I don't think the bull run is fully over in March. I'm just saying if you're buying today, you might see in April or May the prices are actually lower, but we had a huge run up in between.
Mhm.
If I had to draw it out, it's like you're 50% up the mountain right now. We're climbing to the top in March, and then in May, you'll be down at the bottom on the other side of that mountain. So the prices will be lower, meaning if you never sold, you're going to be in losses, you see? And then also, if you are somebody like me, who's a professional trader and knows what the hell I'm doing, I'll know the amount to buy back in. And me and you could get on another podcast in a couple months, maybe if you want, and revisit some of this stuff. I would love to help your community as much as I can.
Yeah, fantastic. I would love that. And just one question that I want to insert here about your forecast. I don't know if you call it a forecast, but
Sure.
um, so regarding chaos and unexpected events, whenever you make your predictions, you're not able theoretically to account for anything that might occur. That will, or are you? Uh, are your predictions of the tops and bottoms of the market
Aligned with anything like
aligned with
geopolitical or, yeah,
aligned with a potential event, just like the Yom Kippur last year? There was an
yes,
event and you were able to match it. Do you see
yeah.
anything like that next year?
Yes, and it has to do with the year of the snake, and it has to do with the United States entering this war. I am not saying that the US will have war on its soil, but I am saying that it's a high likelihood that before January of 2026, because that would be the Chinese year, that's another element that I use quite a bit in my work. It's likely in the calendar year of 2025 that the United States will commit to this current ongoing war at a high level and a high enough level for the mainstream legacy media to commit to calling it World War III,
Mm.
just like they did with World War I and World War II. So I'll give a quick rundown so anyone can backtest what I'm saying. So I'm not just pulling it out of nowhere. World War I, 1917, the United States went to that war during the year of the snake. So then we have 1941. The USA went to that war during the year of the snake. Then we have 1965. The USA went to Vietnam during the year of the snake. Then we have the invasion of Afghanistan, 2001. That was in the year of the snake. I see a pattern here.
But the US has been in wars for, I think, 72 years. So I think that's data from archaics. So it's based, I'm not here to contradict you, but
Yeah, yeah, no, no, you bring up a good point. But when the US enters, those four things that I just said are the
Mhm.
only wars that matter. I don't want to sound
Okay.
disrespectful. I
Mhm.
don't want to sound disrespectful. For instance, let me quickly
Gotcha.
just to
Mhm.
check in with you. Why did no one give a shit about Palestine until this recent event? Palestine hasn't even had an
Mm.
airport for like 40 years.
Yeah, they were completely cut off. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, why doesn't anyone care about that? So sure, we can say Israel and Palestine has been at war for this amount, but no one cared until that event.
Mhm.
So nobody cared about World War One until it became World War One. No one cared about the conflict with Vietnam, really, until the USA had the draft and they went to it. You understand? So my whole point here is that yes, you brought up a fact. At the end of the day, the USA has the most military bases around the world. It's always at war, sure. But what people really are worried or what people are really most interested in is events like the Russia-Ukraine conflict. That one event. That one event was a trigger point that led to a whole change in behavior, lifestyle, narratives, changes the energy sector and logistics.
Mhm.
You know, but all the other little battles, skirmishes that were going on between, no one gave a fuck about. You were able to travel freely as you wish. There was no
Mhm.
real big problem. But this recent event in Israel, now we're starting to see airlines straight up cut off access to Israel, certain airlines. But yet, the war that was going on those years prior, you could just fly into Tel Aviv and any of these places whenever you wanted, no problem. It's all good in the hood.
Mhm.
Um, so I think next year we're going to have the US get involved at a level that is something we can title the World War III. The word that we've been hearing spill out year after year after year, people postulating that it would happen. I think it's all about the year of the snake. In my opinion, what I've found throughout all of my work, it's that that's the year they'll title it that. That's the year the USA will enter. It doesn't matter if Trump's in. It doesn't matter if he's anti-war. I mean, now we could have a completely different change in script, but this seems to be very dramatic what's going on in Israel right now with the inclusion of Lebanon, Iran. We have Turkey has entered the conversation, potentially Egypt. I mean, this shit's going to become only crazier. And I don't think Trump or the United States will do anything to end it as much as they want to promise to, because again, it's just business and war makes money.
Mm.
So that would be the catalyst, in my opinion. And the last thing I'll say, because I really have to go, is
Mhm.
there's a connection to the month of April with war. What we see when I've looked through the data, and I'll just bring up these two events because these are the really, really fascinating. The American Civil War and the American Revolutionary War. Those were both in the month of April. Like totally different years, very far apart events. But I believe also the entering of Vietnam by the USA was also in April. April's a weird time, March, April, and that has to do with astrology, in my opinion,
Mm.
because March is Mars, god of war. That's when the Romans would restart their wars calendar, if you will.
So
So
the
I think,
Babylonian calendar starts usually sometimes in March, actually, before April.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it would make sense to align with the equinox.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, like I think that would be the catalyst, probably something war related, something and now this will all be scripted, by the way. This has all been written probably very far in advance. I have a feeling that this is all just a plan. They put their politicians in front of us to make us believe certain things, but then they do their plan anyways.
So do you think the riddlers then that a lot of people follow on YouTube and the riddlers that post predictions on X, do you think they're how should I call them, like in backdoor infiltrators, or are they genuine?
Yeah, that's tough because my thing is people have called me a Riddler, and I'm like, no, I'm telling you what I see happening. I'm not hiding what I think will happen in a riddle.
Mhm.
Like, this has probably been the most direct conversation you've had in a while, right? Like, I'm telling you everything I know as I know it with no hidden. This isn't to provide some get back to me later after you figured out my Rubik's Cube that I handed you, you know?
Mhm.
So, in my opinion, if you're gonna be a Riddler, then you're a psyop. You're an insider agent
Mhm. Mhm.
of chaos, probably and completely artificial intelligence, likely if it's effective enough, likely being controlled by intelligence.
Oh, they're giving you the program, just programming minds who want to believe them.
Yeah. So I have a feeling that people are very gullible, even though people mean well. And to me, if I was to give people three choices, okay, and this is a great place for us to leave off, but if I gave you
Mhm.
three choices and one of them was do nothing, let someone else think for you, and then on the other complete opposite of the polarity, I said, someone can't think for you. You have to use your survival instincts to figure it out on your own and develop the skills on your own. But then I gave you a middle option. And that middle option was I'm going to give you some cryptic puzzle that if you can solve that, you'll get to the answer. But meanwhile, while doing that, you never developed a skill. Haven't you
Mm.
realized that that's what Hollywood does to you? Hollywood loves for you to be like sucked into the Da Vinci Code or some bullshit. You
Mhm.
know, they want you in
Keeping your
that
mind busy with riddles.
exact exactly. They keep your
Yeah.
mind busy. They want a Batman, a vigilante like superhero that you'll just call on when shit gets weird. They want you to be complacent and okay with that. Then they want you to solve puzzles all day,
Yeah.
right? So I think what I just said, like the XRP community for sure needs to hear. I think a lot of maybe like the QAnon people need to hear because although it might be a tough pill to swallow, nothing can disregard the truth of what I just laid out right there.
Mhm. Mhm.
That
Mhm.
really our reality comes into like if I was to summarize it, it's three things. It's either Do nothing, be governed by the outside, which is what all of us are forced into. That's the voluntary lifestyle we all have. Pay taxes, whatever, identification. And then you have the other side, which is complete self-reliant. You decide to play the game, don't let the game play you. One foot in the matrix, one foot out. But then you
Mm.
put all your energy and all of your prana, all of your life force essence into skills so that when something happens, you can respond instead of react. And then
Mm.
you have the middle ground, this neutral person who's basically believing that once they solve this puzzle, that somehow that's going to lead them to the promised land, and it never does. It leads them to another rabbit hole and then another rabbit hole, and no skills were developed. So what happens is your default mechanism goes straight to the first choice, which is you become governed. This
Right.
is why QAnon is so good, right? Because QAnon was get them feeling like they're solving a puzzle and that all the bad guys will be taken out and that the good guys will be, and then you're solving, and then look at
Mhm.
what happened.
Mm.
4 years, 10 years, however many
People
years
are still
goes by.
following QAnon. Yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. And I think that's probably like the most profound thing for humanity to like take in right now is like you need to perhaps as we get towards this thing called the age of Aquarius, you have to make a fucking choice. Which person are you gonna be? You know?
Mm.
Seriously, which person are you gonna be? Are you gonna be somebody that lets people make choices for you? Because guess what? That's what UBI and all this,
Mhm.
blockchain tech, and that's what that's gonna be. Then you have that middle ground of solving puzzles all day, which I
Mm.
mean, puzzles are cool, man, but like if if you're not watching your life get better and you're just becoming this person who's
I
wrapped in
would call this the
conspiracy.
nowadays mysticism.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and the new age also, again, not to trigger anyone, not to be disrespectful, but the new age has kind of brought in that layer to them too, where they
Mm.
have this whole like, the Galactic Federation is gonna come and take me and push me into the 5D and I won't pay tax any. It's like, come on,
My God,
dog.
this is
Like,
overtaken YouTube.
yeah,
This
it's
whole
huge.
short.
It's huge
Yeah,
on TikTok. It's huge.
yeah.
So I'm gonna, I'm swinging my sword at everyone here. Like I've
Be
been
my
there too.
guest.
I've been there too. I've been there too. The one time that it happened to me, and I'll be vulnerable, was during the time I was learning about all the children being trafficked.
Hmm.
That
I've been
shit
there too.
shattered me.
Yeah.
That shit fucked me up for so long. I couldn't
So
even.
is it finally a psyop? What do you think?
No, I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough, like, because it's a sensitive subject. You know, even outside of the elite, you could, this is what I'll say. I just want to say this real quick, and I really do have to go.
Yeah, yeah,
But
sure.
for the people that are like saying it's Epstein and Diddy and like Leonardo DiCaprio and all these people, bro, you can for free go on your computer right now and look up the sex offender registry in your zip code, and you will see how many of these parasites live next to you.
Walking around freely.
So I don't want to fucking hear it about some island in the middle of nowhere. You have this shit happening in your backyard, okay?
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to avoid the fact that sure, people in Hollywood do it, but like it was done to them. So people who are when it's just a trauma cycle. If you want the trauma cycle to end, don't bring your kid to Hollywood. Don't bring your kid, don't be a part of the game, right? But people like being part of the game. The first thing that happens when somebody becomes a supermodel is they start going to all these parties. And then next thing you know, we never see this girl again. Or
Mm.
maybe not a supermodel, but you know what I mean? Like an up and coming.
Mhm.
So, guys, it's just like I don't ever want to disregard what's happening around me and then bypass that truth because I found out what Tom Hanks is up to. It's like Tom Hanks is nothing. Okay. Like this is a sickness that perhaps I don't know can be cured, but if I just put all my prana into it's only the elites doing it, then that's the never-ending puzzle conspiracy. So I'm not going to say that it's a psyop. I think it's a very real problem, and I think that when artificial intelligence becomes more savvy, you're going to see that move more online and their degeneracy and all that sickness will just go there. And I don't know. Like, I mean, I really can't say too much more to it, but I do think when it comes
I know
to
you
the
need to go, and I do want to go into this topic as well next time we speak, maybe, because it's much bigger than just Hollywood.
yeah.
And I have questions and
Yeah, it's coming at the
discuss
politician level. It's coming at the, it's I
not
totally
only
I
more the ritualistic aspect of it, not necessarily the politician level, even though
yeah, that would be a good conversation. Yeah. It's a tough conversation for me to have because like it just sucks to know, but I know. So yeah, I would definitely
the
you
question
got to
is,
take some
yeah,
sorry.
the question is, does it really go to the level that we were made believe it does? That was around the time the QAnon came up.
Yeah.
We know with
Here's the
all
thing.
the
I'll
Hmm?
spill the tea real quick.
Yeah.
It's blood, menstrual fluid, saliva, sperm, all of that. This is vital life essence.
Mm,
It's has pheromones and hormones in it. It's attractive sexual stuff. Obviously, some of those fluids I named make people.
mm,
So when you hear about this thing called spirit cooking, it's very, 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 very real.
mm,
Now, the I can go much deeper another time, but it's just to let people know that I think at the Hollywood slash government level, it's not as much about like degenerate. Now, please don't take me out of context here. I'm by no means approving this behavior. It's fucking sick. But they're not doing it like your local pedophile.
mm.
They're just not. Like your local
Yeah.
pedophile goes in a chat room and wants to just do something fucking weird with some boy, right?
Mm,
But at the Tom Hanks level, at the like at the politician level, it's to get prana, life force
right.
essence in liquid form to bypass some of the process of aging. And also because it is life force fluid, it gives you a high like effect, like
Mm,
almost like a drug that cannot even be, nothing can get close to.
mm,
And the addictiveness of this drug, it's like just I'll say this. Vampire movies are real. What they're showing you, and the reason they even say this in the Bible and the Quran and all of the holy texts, they say never drink blood. So all the people out there that are like, I'm on the carnivore diet, I'm in the eating the bet, you're consuming adrenochrome. You're consuming death, and this is not just meat. All right.
I mean,
It's a
apart
very,
from
very deep
consuming death,
conversation.
no, okay, I know you have to go. Lovely
Me and you could probably go
conversation.
forever. Yeah.
There's a lot
No,
to
no.
share, clearly.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just saying that like it's not just flesh and a hamburger and whatever. Like what you eat has these vital fluids running through it. And that's what the Hollywood, that's what the elite, the politician, that's what they're all after. And innocence and fright, being scared, makes this a whole different chemical reaction in that particular fluid.
Mm,
And the same thing goes for when a woman's pregnant, when a woman's menstruating. So, like, I know this is really vile and deep, but like, yeah, it's to delineate between the sickness is very much because they're drug addicts.
mm,
It's that their drug is not heroin or the typical stuff, fentanyl. It's not that. Their drug is this.
mm,
So they need it, okay? They need it more than money. They need it more than anything. And the fucked up part about it is they get them into this whole thing through blackmail. And
mm.
when they have a squeaky clean image, then they do it. So it's like a very multifaceted chess move to
Yeah.
control another person because you get them hooked on this substance and then you also have ways to end their whole career. And the way that the same person who built you up has an on and off switch to deactivate you. But I have to go.
Yeah, it's not, it's
I
all the politicians as well, not only Hollywood. This is,
Yes, exactly.
yeah. All right.
So it's been amazing. I'm
It's
sorry
been
we
a
had to
total
end on
pleasure. Hope to have you again soon to
I'm
go
sorry we
deeper.
had to end on that note, but
Yeah.
go ahead when you're done with this, send me a link to the YouTube video and I'll go ahead and share it with the community.
Thank you so much.
All right,
Loved our
much love.
conversation. Thank
Take
you.
care.
You too.